Hi everyone! Today we're doing an HPGE terminology quiz. Let's see how many you can get right. Get ready, here's the first question. The weight per unit volume of a liquid at a standard temperature and pressure is called ratio of weight of water to the weight of solid particles. In AASHTO, soil greater than 75 millimeters is classified as it is the most used property used in soil properties. Deep groundwater deposits that provide water for supply and irrigation are called it is an abrupt rise in water surface which results from retarding water flowing at lower stage. A pressure surge or wave caused when a fluid in motion is forced to stop or change direction suddenly is referred to determine the force why small insects can walk on the water. If the discharge passing a given cross-section of a stress is constant with time, the flow at that section is called it is the volume of liquid passing a cross-section of a stream. In a fluid flow, if the fluid travels parallel to the adjacent layers and the paths of individual particles do not cross, the flow is said to be density of water is maximum at what is the ratio of the volume of voids to the volume of solids? What is the ratio of the volume of voids to the total volume? What is the ratio of the weight of water to the weight of solids in a given volume of soil? A condition of flow characterized when fluid particles move in very irregular paths, causing an exchange of momentum for a portion of the liquid to another, is a flow measurement principle stating that the increase in kinetic energy per unit weight equals the decrease in potential energy per unit weight is called the concept that the theoretical velocity of a liquid jet from an orifice under a head h equals the velocity of a free-falling body from a height is known as the difference between the hydraulic grade line and energy grade line is a type of open channel flow where the Froude number is equal to 1. It is defined as a channel where liquid flows with a free surface exposed to atmospheric pressure, driven by the slope of the channel and the liquid surface. It is an overflow structure built across an open channel for the purpose of measuring or controlling the flow. It is the test used to determine the grain size distribution of the soils passing the number 200 sieve. It is the grain size corresponding to 10% passing on a grain size distribution curve. It describes the level and type of cohesion and adhesion between soil particles, relating to the soil's resistance to deformation or rupture. It is a field test to assess the soil's ability to resist applied stress or pressure using the thumb and forefinger. Is the attraction of one water molecule to another resulting from hydrogen bonding, water-water bond. It involves the attraction of a water molecule to a non-water molecule, water-solid bond. It is the soil's ability to stick to other objects, estimated at the moisture content where maximum adhesion is observed between the thumb and forefinger. Degree a soil can be molded or reworked, causing permanent deformation without rupturing. Is defined as the moisture content at which soil begins to behave as a liquid material and begins to flow. It is the moisture content at which soil starts behaving like a plastic material, also defined as the moisture content where the soil crumbles when rolled into a 3.18 millimeters diameter thread. Is defined as the moisture content at which no further volume change occurs with further reduction in moisture content. Is the densification of soil by removal of air, which requires mechanical energy. It is a technique for in situ densification of thick layers of loose granular soil deposits. It is the path that water particles follow as they move from the upstream side to the downstream side through a permeable soil medium. It is a line where the potential head remains the same at all points. They are constructed to calculate the groundwater flow in the media that combine flow line and equipotential lines. It is the total of the vertical components of forces at the contact points of solid particles, divided by the cross-sectional area of the soil mass. It is the internal resistance per unit area of the soil mass to resist failure and sliding along any plane. It is a ground surface inclined to the horizontal forming a slope that can be either natural or man-made. It is a type of failure that occurs in such a way that the surface of sliding intersects the slope or above its toe. It is the horizontal pressure exerted by soil against a structure. This concept is commonly applied in designing ground engineering structures like retaining walls, basements, tunnels, and for calculating side friction on deep foundations. This state occurs when the soil mass expands or moves outward until it reaches its limiting strength, representing failure in extension. It is the minimum lateral soil pressure that can be exerted. It is simply an enlargement of a load-bearing wall or column that makes it possible to spread the load of the structure over the large area of the soil. It is a structural member made of concrete, timber, or steel that transmit the load of the superstructure to the lower layers of the soil. It is a type of foundation which is referred to as a raft foundation. It is a combined footing that may cover entire area under structure, supporting several columns and walls. He was the first to develop a comprehensive theory for calculating the ultimate bearing capacity of rough, shallow foundations. According to his theory, a foundation is considered shallow if its depth is less than or equal to its width. He proposed the correlation for the net allowable bearing pressure for a foundation with the standard penetration resistance. When a body floating in a liquid is displaced slightly, it oscillates about when the ship's metacenter and center of gravity coincide at same point, then the vessel is said to be in the resultant upward pressure of a fluid on a floating body is equal to the weight of the fluid displaced by the body. This definition is according to the resultant upward pressure of the fluid on an immersed body is called the center of gravity of the volume of the liquid displaced by an immersed body is called the horizontal component of buoyant force is the vertical intercept between EGL and HGL is equal to equation of continuity is based on the principle of conservation of Bernoulli equation deals with the law of conservation of all the terms of energy in Bernoulli equation have dimensions of which one of the following is a major loss? It is a soil whose present effective overburn pressure is less than that which the soil experienced in the past.
If with steady flow in any length or reach of a stream, the average velocity at every cross-section is the same in that reach, the flow is said to be a body placed in a liquid is buoyed up by a force equal to the weight of the displaced liquid. This principle of buoyancy was attributed to a process by which water-saturated soil sediment temporarily lost strength and acts as a fluid. One of the following foundation conditions does not affect foundation settlement. In accordance with the Unified Soils classification of soils, which are considered coarse-grained if the passing through number 200 sieve is less than Section 302.2.2 of the National Structural Code of the Philippines provides that the slope of cut surfaces shall be no steeper than is safe for intended use and shall be no steeper than the component of shear strength of a rock or soil that interparticle friction is called Which of the following is not a component of the soil mass? Soil derives its strength from its capacity to resist according to USCS soil classification of a soil particle whose size is greater than 75 millimeters is called a cohesive soil deposit is considered soft if the unconfined compression strength in kilopascals is between a line joining the points of highest elevation of water in a series of vertical open pipes rising from a pipeline in which water flows under pressure is referred to as when the path lines of the individual particles of a floating liquid are irregular curves and continually cross each other and form a complicated network, the flow is called in any stream flowing steadily without friction, the total energy contained is the same at every point in its path of flow. This principle is attributed to the pressure exerted onto a liquid is transmitted undiminished to all portions of the liquid. This principle of mechanics is attributed to the fraction of soils passing which sieve number is used for Atterberg limits tests of soils. A granular soil deposit is considered medium if the blow count of a standard penetration is between one of the following is not a characteristic of cohesionless soils. When, at any instant, the number of particles passing every section of the stream are always equal, the flow is said to be. One of the following foundation conditions does not affect the bearing capacity of the supporting soil. If the groundwater table in a soil formation rises as a result of flooding, the bearing capacity of the soil. What would happen if the groundwater table will be at the ground level?
Is a branch of hydraulics which deals with the study of forces, including velocity and acceleration, exerted by or upon liquids in motion. In what plane is the additional stress, deviator stress, can affect the shear stress? What test is not performed in laboratory? Where is the metacenter for stable equilibrium? If the volume of voids is equal to the volume of solids, what is the porosity and void ratio equal to, respectively? When the metacenter of a floating body is lower than the center of gravity, then the body will be in. Negative skin friction on piles. The normal stress in a fluid will be the same in all directions at a point, only if. Seawater has a higher specific weight than pure water because it contains. Barometer is used to measure. Manometer is used to measure. When a fluid experiences resistance, it undergoes a change in volume due to. Liquids transmit pressure equally in all directions. This is according to. The point in the immersed body where the total pressure of the liquid is considered to act is called. Center of pressure on an inclined plane is. How does the total pressure vary with depth for any submerged surface if we ignore changes in density? For an inclined plate, the pressure intensity varies at each point. The total upward pressure exerted by the fluid on an immersed body is called. The center of gravity of the displaced liquid volume by an immersed body is called. The horizontal component of buoyant force is.
Which of the following is true? Hydraulic gradient line takes into consideration which of the following is true? The vertical intercept between EGL and HGL is equal to the major loss of energy in long pipes is due to the ratio of inertia force and gravitational force is called as which geometric parameter determines the efficiency of the channel? For a channel to be economic, which of the following parameters should be minimum? What is the depth of flow in case most economical circular section considering maximum velocity? The pressure measured with the help of a pressure gauge is called the hydraulic gradient line lies over the center line of the pipe by an amount equal to the And that's a wrap for our HPGE terminology quiz. How many did you get? Comment your score below and let's see who got them all.